Well, it's a fascinating place, the Farne Islands. It's one of the most accessible seabird colonies in the UK. It's only a boat journey from sea houses from Northumberland. It's 1 hour out to the islands. And what a spectacular sight. We've got somewhere in the region of 80,000 breeding pairs of seabirds. We've got 36,000 pairs of puffins. There's nowhere quite like it. So the visitor, we open the islands on the 1st of April and they'll see this seabird colony build up and build up. And then it's this crescendo of noise, it's a crescendo of activity. These birds be coming in all the time, feeding hungry chicks. And it's also the smell as well. It's not just the sights, it's the smell.
Puffins are an iconic species. And like all the seabirds that are breeding on the island, they're indicators really of the health of the surrounding marine environment. And as such, they're incredibly important. We know so little about what's going on beneath the surface of the sea that we have to rely on the seabirds acting like canaries in essence. So when anything goes wrong with the seabirds, then we can start saying, well, perhaps there's something wrong with the marine environment.
Puffins, they'll actually arrive on the islands sort of late March, early April, and they'll nest on the islands through till late July, early August, and then they depart. And the big question is where they go, because as far as we're aware, puffins will head into the North Atlantic, which encompasses the Atlantic Ocean itself, the Irish Sea, the North Sea, and then you've got birds going as far south as sort of Biscay. But the exact whereabouts, we're not exactly sure. So what we're finding is puffins on the farms are doing really well and have done for so many years, and yet our population crashed by 32% just in the last 5 years.
It's so difficult to actually monitor puffin numbers. The expectation was that in 2008 that the numbers would be even higher, hoping sort of in the 60s, maybe even the 70,000. And it came as rather a shock that the actual numbers dropped quite substantially by about a third, down to the mid-30,000s. And that starts the alarm bells ringing.
So that big drop, we're trying to find out why, and the problem obviously is occurring out at sea during their wintering period. When they live here in late July, early August, it's there in the wintering grounds where they're facing these problems.
Now we don't know whether or not within that intervening 5 years the numbers had gone up and then suddenly dropped in 2008, or whether there's been a gradual reduction since 2003 until 2008. We know really very little about sort of what's happening to the numbers of puffins on these islands.
Now if the National Trust can find out exactly where these birds are going, and we'll be able to locate the problem and we'll be able to do something about it.
What they do out there when they go to sea, now that's the mystery. I lay down in the dirt and the feces and the wet and the mud, because it's important that we understand what is happening out there, what these birds are doing. And we can only do that if you catch the birds. And in the case of the puffin, the easiest way to do it is to put your arm down its burrow and catch it that way. If we can put a GPS logger onto a bird, then we can actually find out exactly where it is the bird is going. And that is really important if during the breeding season, if we're to actually identify areas that are important for the birds in the surrounding areas. So do they go to particular areas? If so, if there are particular hotspots, perhaps we need to be thinking about how we can serve those hotspots.
So this whole GPS tagging and geolocators will actually give us a big insight of where our birds are going.
And these little tags here, which weigh just over a gram, can monitor that for up to 3 years. So once we've deployed these on the birds and they go off, next year when they come back, we can catch them, take the tag off and find out where they've gone.
It's really vital. This information we're getting from the Farne Islands is vital, because we fit in with all the other frameworks and we'll fit in with all the other seabird colonies. So the information we get from the National Trust Farne Islands, we can then compare with RSPB reserves, Scottish National Heritage Reserves and all other seabirds around the British Isles, and we can compare how well or how badly we're doing in compared to that. So it's really important we gather this information. What the public can do to support places like the Farne Islands is to actually join the National Trust, become become a member, and your money will actually come back and actually benefit such fantastic reserves. You know, this is one of Europe's finest nature reserves, and without help and support of members of the public joining the National Trust, we wouldn't be here, and the wardens themselves wouldn't be here continuing this fabulous work, not just this year, not just next year, but for future generations. So it's really vital we get you as supporters.